Hello everyone. In the last lecture, we discussed the concept of stress. Today, we will discuss the type of quantities of stress, that is, vector, scalar, or something else. In this lecture, we will be talking about what are scalar quantities, what are vector quantities, what is a tensor quantity, and the difference between stresses and pressure. First, let's talk about scalar quantity. A quantity that only depends on the magnitude and not the direction is called as a scalar. Example, distance, speed, and pressure. Then we talk about a vector quantity. A quantity that depends on magnitude and at least one direction is called as a vector. Example, velocity, force. Now, which type of quantity is stress? First, let's talk about scalar quantity. A quantity that only depends on the magnitude and not the direction is called as a scalar. For example, distance, speed, and pressure. Next, we talk about a vector quantity. A quantity that depends on the magnitude and at least one direction is called as a vector. A quantity that depends on magnitude and at least one direction is called as a vector. Example, velocity and force. Now, which type of quantity stress is? Let's have a look at it. Stress is neither a scalar or a vector because to define the stress, minimum two directions are required along with a magnitude. And the quantities which require magnitude and more than one direction is called as a tensor quantity. So, stress is a tensor quantity because it always acts in a plane. Let's write it down. And there is no requirement for any direction in scalar. Therefore, it is known as a zero order quantity. There is a requirement of one direction in vector quantity. Therefore, it is known as first order quantity. And there is a requirement of two directions in a tensor. Hence, it is known as a second order quantity. So, stress is a tensor quantity of second order. And so far in this lecture we have learned about tensor and its order. Now, a lot of students doubted that pressure is also force per unit area. And then, what is the difference between pressure and stress? Let's discuss about the difference between stress and pressure. From the table below, we can see that a stress is nothing but the internal force per cross-sectional area, whereas the pressure is external force per cross-sectional area. In stress, the internal force need not be perpendicular, but in pressure, the force is always perpendicular to the cross section. Again, in stress, this is not a measurable quantity, but pressure is always a measurable quantity. In stress, it is due to the action of pressure, but in pressure, there is no need of stress to develop the pressure. Stress might not be uniform, but the pressure distribution is always uniform. Stress is always a tensor quantity, whereas pressure is a scalar quantity. So students, before moving to the further topic, let's do some objective questions which are generally asked in engineering service examination and engineering competitive examinations. The first MCQ states that stress is a dash quantity. We have been given four options that are 1. Vector, 2nd scalar, 3rd tensor and D, none of the above. From the above definitions, we have understood that stress is a tensor quantity. So let's make a note of this. Second, tensor is a dash order quantity. The option 1 is first order, second is zeroth order, third is second order, and fourth is third order. From the above definitions, we know that tensor is a second order quantity. So the option C is the right answer, which is a second order. And let's go for the third MCQ. Pressure is a measurable quantity, not measurable, C, which is both A and B, or D, none of the above. We know from the definitions that pressure is a measurable quantity. We also might have seen this in the distinguishing between stress and pressure. So please keep this point in your mind that pressure is always measurable. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe our channel Ekeeda.